Welcome, welcome, welcome to this edition of Sagionic 1027. We are so glad that you decided to join us today. And with us, I have one of those guests that I would say, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest. Okay, but before I introduce you to our guest, I want to tell you a little bit about our program. So the word Sagionic means movement by movement in human time. Well, let's think of history for a second. In history, anytime something needed to be implemented or brought forward or pushed forward in history, there was a person who brought forth a movement, and in essence, it created a movement. Okay, so that's what Sagionic means. If we take the word Sagion singular, it means carriers of wisdom. So our goal here at Sagionic is to literally interview people who have walked through wisdom, people who have had a professional mindset in whatever the project may be that they're doing, whether it be cooking or mothering or gardening or in corporate America, whatever it may be. Our goal is to interview carriers of wisdom. So today, my very, very special guest is Pear Harris, and I want to share a little bit with you about Pear. Pear is a passionate motivator who inspires others to be the best version of themselves, helping others to achieve their goals to get results in health, wellness, along with family relationships that results in lives being changed, personally transformed. She is an incredible chef who serves up love with each creative meal or sweet one could imagine. Look out, world. Once her cookbook is launched, it will become a family heirloom keepsake. For decades, Pear can be seen literally loving on and mentoring one individual at a time that has been brought into her presence. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if 80% of the population of Renton, Washington, at one point or another has encountered her loving words of encouragement. She functions in vibrancy, yet works in extreme humility, grace, love, and forgiveness. Anyone who comes to know Pear Harris will walk away as a more enriched human being. Pear is a professional coach. She's a life coach, empowering your transformation. And I'm just excited for the world to be able to meet Pear. So Pear, today's program is all about you. Do you have any words, initial words that you would like to share with the people?
Well, hello, people. Well, thank you, my dear blood sister, for this opportunity to be able to come on here and share what little golden nuggets that I've learned along the way. And I'm excited to see where this call is going to take us. I'm excited to see where this call is going to reach. And I'm excited to see the results that this and all the other broadcasts that you have done is going to bring forth into the world.
Good. And I like how you said golden nuggets, because then you brought our mom right into the center of this.
Yes.
But she said her sister, Pear, and I call us double blood sisters. We are both followers of Christ, so we're sisters in the Lord, but we are also DNA sisters.
Yes.
And so Pear, here you are, a life coach, right? And so can you kind of share with viewers throughout the course of your life? I've heard people say that, oh gosh, I knew when my child was little and she was lining up all of her dolls and teaching them that she was a teacher, right? So can you kind of share with viewers, going back in your life, what are some things that took place where now, here you are, you look back and you're like, oh, of course. Can you kind of give us a couple examples?
Excellent question. And that's definitely a question I ask my clients. So that's will be pretty fun to be able to answer that. I think of the butterfly.
Okay.
And I go to years ago when I had a dream where I was crossing a bridge and I saw thousands and thousands of butterflies go before me. And when I woke up, I knew that meant transformations. And something that I was always attracted to in the physical was any show on transformation, whether it was you take a shack and you turn it into a beautiful home, or whether it was makeovers. Say maybe you took someone off the street and they got new teeth, new hair, new everything, and dental implants or whatever it is that they needed, and their makeup and the dress, and then to see people that maybe have had a hard time in life and they're really down, and maybe they've been through some serious trauma. And I've seen mentors in my life work with people where they were transformed. And then I look at little things that transformed me, people that I looked up to as a kid. So I thought that would be great to be able to do this. I love giving people advice and I love counseling. The only caveat in coaching is you don't do that. You ask questions and then people go, oh, I've never thought about that before. And then you have the conversation. Mm-hmm. And
That's
so,
very good.
yeah,
So it
yes.
sounds like you're almost trying to pull out of someone what's already inside of them.
That's exactly right, Sean. There is an old Jewish proverb, and it says, for the purposes of the man or woman's heart is deep, but a man or woman of understanding draws those plans and those purposes out of that person's heart so that they're able to walk out their call, their vision, their intention, their purpose that they have on planet Earth.
So, if we think of you sharing about the butterfly, okay, and if we think of the process of a butterfly, are you aware of the process of how a butterfly becomes a butterfly?
Oh, yes. And the chrysalis is a lovely little place.
So it kind of makes me think of, so if we think of the butterfly, right, and we think of when it's inside of the cocoon, I've read that if you try to cut the butterfly out of the cocoon prematurely, you'll kill it.
Absolutely.
Because it's when the butterfly is struggling to get out of the cocoon that the blood is released in the veins, thus causing its beauty.
Fabulous.
Okay?
Fabulous.
So you could not be a woman where you are today as a coach had it not been for your, wow, so special struggles over the years. So can you share with us, as vaguely as you feel comfortable, or as deep as you feel comfortable, what, if you go back in your life, what is a character building moment that was like it felt like your head was chopped off?
Well, I think the first thing that comes to me, actually, I have a plethora of them, so let's just break it down to one thing. I think it was when my parents got divorced, or our parents got divorced. And I was probably around 10 in that impressionable, puberty age where the father needs to be there to bring the words of encouragement, to let you know you're the princess and you're beautiful and you're wonderful. But at that time, he was excused from our life because of his behavior. And so we had to learn to kind of make it on our own, looking for love in all the wrong places. And so you develop character that you don't want. And so I think along that road, once you realize that, hey, I think there is a better life out there. I think there is a higher power. And I think we need to search out what our truth is that we need to walk in that's going to build character in our lives. And I think that biggest character was to know that we're loved, we're wanted, and we're desired. And that's one of the biggest things I try to help with the clients, because when your identity is stole from you at a very young age, be it molestation, maybe it was a rape, maybe you went through a divorce, maybe you were on the streets, maybe you went through some type of trauma where you lost everything in your life, you need that support to help rebuild you again, to recover all. And I think that's a process that takes time. And in those little timelines, if you would say, that each timeline is where you build character. And what needs to be rebuilt more than anything is your identity, because your identity produces your beliefs produces your behavior, and your behavior will bring about the results in your life. So I could tell everybody that's watching this broadcast, you are where you are today because of what you believe about your identity. And I think it's a lifelong work that's worth being a part of.
That's really good. That's really good because that's something that all viewers can identify with. If they, this within this last week, I heard a man say that he had seemed to struggle with relationships his whole life, like his whole life, one relationship after another relationship after another relationship. And he said, there was nobody that like laid hands on him, or there was no like spiritual guru that spoke something over him or chanted something over him or tones or symbols or whatever. But there was just an aha moment inside of his mind. And that he had this knowing that I am not who was spoken over him when he was passed around through, what do they call those? Foster homes. Right?
Sure.
That, or he was told, because he went back to say that one day when he was told, you don't have a dad. And he froze.
Sure.
He froze in his growth. So that's huge. So, share with us how did you rebuild it? Because you said it's a lifelong of rebuilding. So if you go back, once you became aware of your identity was robbed from you, right? How did you begin to rebuild yourself?
Well, this is an interesting statement. I remember when I became a believer, I was probably around 19 years old. I remember hearing a voice, and it said, "Will the real Perry stand up?" And I said, "I don't know who that is. So you're going to need to teach me how to find who she is and whose she is."
I need you
And
to
I think,
I need you to pause there because this is so profound what you're saying right now. Say again what you heard when you were 19.
I heard, "Will the real Perry stand up?" And then I said, "I don't know who she is." And I think that was based on this 1960s or 70s TV show we used to watch, and it was called,
That girl. Was it that girl?
no, it was like a game show.
I can
And
see it.
each of them would tell a story, and then the person that was playing the game had to guess what the real story was.
Okay,
And
okay.
so they had to pick the truth. But if
Got
you don't
you.
know who you are and whose you are because of your identity being stolen, that's when I realized, okay, this is going to be quite the journey. And that's what I began my journey with, as that as a foundation that I needed to know.
So, Perry, could you take this moment as if there were 10,000 people in the audience?
Mm-hmm.
And what would you speak to people?
Well, the first thing that I would say is to ask the question, who am I? And whose am I? And what am I learning in this season in life? And who does God want to be for us? Those are the critical things. And then the next thing I would say is find some mentorship, find a leader, find a teacher that has that you want or feels the way that you do. And then somebody that feels the way you want to feel.
Yes.
And then go after that and go after that. And so the whole process in that, the goal is to restore that identity back to us that has been stolen.
You
And
know,
so, go ahead.
and I really like how that is not it's not circumstantial to be able to, it's not circumstantial to ask the question. It's not geographical dependence. It's not relationally dependence, but it's literally asking the question, who do you say I am?
Exactly.
And it's also not relationally dependent. It's not who your parents were, who your parents weren't, what kind of neighborhood you grew up in, or what kind of neighborhood you didn't, what financial status you were subjected to or had access to. You didn't put any barriers on it.
No, absolutely. And there's a story that was told to me by my mentors is there was a young newspaper reporter who was out finding stories to establish himself.
Okay.
And so he went in and heard about these twins. And he thought, okay, I'm going to interview the twins. So the first twin he found in a bar. And he went in and got his little cassette player out and pushed play and said, interviewed this guy and said, tell me about your life. Oh, his life was miserable. Oh, it was horrible. Oh, he had the wrong person, the wrong time. He was the wrong person at the wrong time. And everything that did go wrong went wrong. And he goes, well, what do you attribute this to? The reporter said. And he said, because my father was an alcoholic. And then he said, well, is it okay if I go ahead and interview your twin? And he said, sure. He says, yeah, he lives up on that big white house in the hill. So the reporter went there and met the young man's twin and said, well, tell me about your life. Let me push play on my cassette. He goes, my life is amazing. It couldn't be any better. It's wonderful. I have the best life I've ever had. And the news reporter said, who do you attribute this to? And he said, because my father was an alcoholic. So I think one knew who his identity was, and so did the other, but it was a different story. And I think one took a journey of the cup full, and one took a journey of the cup empty. And being a coach, I've heard many stories of people that have gone through horrific things. And because they've reached out for healing, not just with myself, but maybe with a therapist or a counselor or spiritual advisor, and I've seen them grow. I've seen also people who have gone through very little and they're traumatized or with something even mentally worse that they're battling with. And I think it's your perspective on how you look at life and what your role is in that. So if you went through something really bad, one of the questions that we ask is, what did you believe about yourself? Because everything boils down to identity. So if you believe that you're worthless, you're not valuable, you're nothing, then you're going to walk that out in your life. Because that identity is going to always be your belief that's going to press into your behavior, which is everything you do, speak, say, the way you live your life, and it's going to build results that you don't want. But if you believe that, yes, bad things happen to bad and good people, but you're in a position where you want to rebuild that, then your outlook's going to be different. So then we work on identity by asking a series of questions about what you desire and want in life. Even if you're willing to start at nothing and rebuild upon that, you will get different results. And
That's
so
really incredible. That's really incredible, Perry, because in essence, you are describing to people that one can actually have a second chance at life.
we call it a transformation.
Yeah, because it's just, it makes me think of that silly song, Transformers more than meets the eye, right? Because these little cars turned into these robots, right? Or these little things turned into these giant things. Would you say, because here's a thought that came to me, that if we go back in family lineages, okay, and perhaps that, somebody was raised in the era, we'll go 4 decades back, right? Where children don't talk, they're just present, right? Then you get to the next generation and, potentially the wife despises the daughter because the dad looks at her as daddy's daughter, right? And coddles her and loves her and protects her like a princess, right? Then you get to the next generation and they're going through a war zone, and so then it becomes all about work, 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 right? And so they come home trying to survive the war zone and they're just trying to, get food on the table. So there's no communication going. So nobody's taught how to relationally communicate, right? Nobody's taught how to reason, let alone to think in one's brain. And then you jump on to the next generation. So can you share with us how by somebody having a mentor, by somebody having a coach, how that actually, like whether it be somebody who is an introvert processor and then you're trying to help them to articulate their own thoughts, kind of share with us, because it is a transformation, but it's also a rebirth, or it's an actual birthing process for the first time ever for some people, I would assume.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it starts with where you're stuck.
Okay.
I I think that's the bottom line. There's things that you want in life and you're like, oh my gosh, why can't I get there?
Okay.
I'm trying everything I know to do, but I'm still not getting anywhere. And then I think that's at a point where you can reach out and you can ask for help. So I'll give you an example.
Okay.
So someone grows up in poverty, but they don't want to be poor anymore because maybe in their generations past, there was mismanagement that maybe you didn't know about. And maybe the mismanagement was in the mind and in the heart, but you didn't know about it. And you thought it was all about the money, but it wasn't all about the money. So now you find a mentor who's really good when it comes to money. And then you tell them, I'm stuck. And they said, okay, why don't we begin with the mentality of when you first believed that you were poor? And then maybe they said, I remember having to shop at food banks as a child and thinking, this is probably my life. If my grandparents did this and my parents did this, maybe this is my lot in life. What if that mentor, who now you've asked to be your accountability partner, is willing to search with you a little deeper? Maybe there's some lies about your identity that you believed through your own I am statements, which are, now the ones I'm going to say, we made a rule in our house when our kids were really young. You're not allowed to say these. And you can ask any of my kids and they will tell you this. I am poor. I cannot afford it. I only have a few coins left. I have no money. I don't know where I'm going to get it. I'm broke. These are words that from the time our kids were really little, we were not allowed to say. I didn't want to make a judgment about my parents or my grandparents, because judging isn't what someone did, it's when you assign a behavior to it. And I didn't want to do that. I just made a conscious decision that we weren't going to walk in a broken, poor mentality because it steals creativity. So if our kids wanted something, we would say, how can you afford it? How can you work it out? Where's the creativity that you need? So it made them think about how to make things happen. And I've seen that over and over and over again. So we made a decision to walk in a different identity, even though the bank account didn't always show it. I still believed in the process of as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Change the thought, change the man.
Uh-huh. And even Zig Ziglar himself said, whether you think you can or can't, you're right.
You're absolutely right.
Literally, whether you think
Great
you
statement.
can or can't, you're right. And here Zig Ziglar is gone on to the grave, right? And his words are still alive and still appropriate and applicable everywhere. You know,
Absolutely.
I really like that. You know, and when we think of perspective too, right? We can look outside and the sun exists, whether in the Pacific Northwest we see it or not. Okay, so my sister's up in Washington in the Puget Sound area, and I'm down in the Portland, Oregon neighborhood, and I get to see more of the physical sun than she does. But the sun always exists, whether there's cloudiness there or not. And even you can get a sun when you can get a suntan because Perry's an avid gardener as well, so you could get a suntan in the midst of the clouds. Right? So what is a time in your life, because we're creating a relatability to viewers, okay? What's a time where the fog was so thick, like it was thick, you know, where you were just like, whoosh, it was so thick it was like you couldn't breathe, you know? And how did you find who is Perry? Who's Perry in this? Where did you gain strength from, Perry?
I remember a time where one of my children was very sick, and it was touch and go. And we didn't know if they would wake up in the morning. And I remember this. I remember laying in bed with a lot of anxiety and how it affected the rest of the family, which makes it even more harder when it has an effect. I had to reach out to those that know how to pray. I had to reach out to my community. I had to reach out to my own Savior in prayer and to say, God help. I know that thoughts come before anxiousness, and I had to really weigh my thoughts. But I realized that during that time when I just walked in fear and I didn't know what I was going to do, I really had to soul search in who I was. And one of the things that I realized is that when it's really cloudy like that, you really need help. And I don't think a lot of people know how to ask for help. I see it all the time. Burnouts, people just are stressed. I've met more people who have been in mental institutions that I would have even guessed. And one of the things that took us out of that time was we had a huge supportive community. My husband and I are involved in many numerous groups, from writers groups to inner healing groups to coaching groups. I can go on and on. We have a huge community of people that love and care about us. and they rallied around the cause. And I think rallying around that cause, it really opened up my heart during that season to see how loved I was. And I remember somebody years later calling me and going, I remember when I went through a trial and I felt all alone. And all of a sudden in that moment, I realized, God, I'm so blessed. I'm so loved. And my husband and I have such a huge community of friends and family that really love and care for us that it worked on my identity. His perfect love came in and cast out those thoughts of fear that were inside of my heart. And of course, the end result, during a different season, our child did overcome a tumultuous time and battle that they were going through. So I thank God for that.
So, how would you share with someone, let's say, someone doesn't have this massive community that you speak of, right? And maybe they have a few people. Would you say that potentially it's okay for some to take longer than others, and to always see oneself as worth the reach out? How would you touch on that?
Absolutely. I'm thinking of somebody like that in my mind, and they will keep reaching out. Even if you reach out just one person, there's also lots of hotlines that people can go to. You can also check with your local community, whether it's a church or a YMCA or a community center. There's lots of resources of where you can reach out depending on whatever the trial or trauma is that you're going through at the time. But I think if you just reach out to someone that has maybe been there, or somebody that is maybe a leader where you want to be, or feels the way that you want to feel. Now, if you're going through depression, you probably don't want to reach out to your neighbor who's still in depression. You want to reach out to somebody who has overcome. And the therapist is really good at that. So sometimes you got to let your fingers do the walking, like in the yellow pages. But there's lots of resources out there. Even if you just reach out to one place, that one place can lead you to another or lead you to another. But I think the first thing is know that you're worth getting the help. You're worth being healed, because your healing can lead to another healing. Heal people, heal people. Hurt people continue to hurt people. And the more we reach out for healing, the more our identity changes, that we start to realize that we're more worth than we possibly could imagine. I also know in my own life that when I'm feeling down, I go, who can I call today and encourage?
That's right.
If I'm out and about in the store, who can I give a compliment to? A sincere compliment to. One of the coolest books I ever read was How to Win Friends and Influence People by Napoleon Hill. It's an excellent read. It teaches you how to be a friend and how to make friends. And so that's a really good resource that really helps me. Also, I'm reminded of a proverb that says that God is an ever-present help in time of trouble. He's always there for us. And you can always be reminded that you're not alone, that whatever it is that you're going through, somebody else in almost 8 billion people is going through the same thing that you're going through, and that you're worth enough to reach out to get help.
That's really good. And to have, not only to be the friend, but to have the friends, right? And I really like what you said as far as reaching out to someone. one of our mottos here is those who refresh others will they themselves be refreshed. And if you spend time like, I want to say Pollyanna, it's a Disney movie. She would play the glad game, right? And I love how she went into the home of Mr. Grump Grump, the widow who was a grump grump, or the old man who was a grump grump in the gorgeous home, right? And how or the old grandma who is, just negative as could be, right? And how she just literally went about encouraging people. And then, the story goes on to say how I think she fell out of a tree or something, a broken arm, and all these people came to encourage her. But the law of sowing and reaping, share a little bit about that. Just literally sowing and reaping, how you've seen the principle play itself out again and again in your life.
Well, there's the natural realm and then the unseen realm. So in the natural realm, being a gardener, I'm outside sowing seeds right after Mother's Day, at least in the Pacific Northwest here, with my granddaughter. And if you sow corn seeds, you're going to get corn. If you plant tomatoes, you're going to get tomatoes. If you're going to plant beans, you're going to get beans. So whatever seed you sow, you're going to reap a harvest that is like-minded. And so if you're sowing seeds of positivity, of love, of kindness, of virtue, of beauty, of love, number one, you're going to be a very attractive person, and people are going to want to be around you all the time. I have certain friends that when I know they're coming home, and when they walk in the room, I'm like, I just love them because they're like the sun. They just light up the whole room, and you want to be around people like that. But if you're negative Nancy and you're always spewing garbage out of your mouth, you have to be careful because words are like seeds. You're going to get a harvest of the words that you plant in this material life that we live in. So let's say you need encouragement. Maybe write some letters to someone, or send a card to someone, or get on the phone, or message them, DM them, send them a Facebook, an Instagram, whatever it is. Or just old school, get on the phone and call somebody. Hey, what are you up to? Encourage them in some ways. The world calls it karma. What a man sows, so shall he reap. It's a law, as like the law of lift, as like the law of gravity. It will happen in the way that you sow it. So that death and life are in the power of the tongue. That's a universal statement. And so we want to be cautious of the things in life that we want. Then there's something inside of us that we need to sow in order to reap that harvest. Now, also, once we plant that harvest, we can't go out and keep looking underneath the dirt to check on it. Once it's in the ground, it takes time to be cultivated. And with the photosynthesis and the water, and I tell my plants that I love them. I'm excited for the harvest that they're going to bring out. What more than people?
That's really good.
A message of love, and be very careful of our words and what we say to other people.
Perry, I even like what you said as far as, if you are feeling discouraged, right? I'm going to throw myself out here for just last night. Okay. Just last night, yesterday I did 5 interviews. Okay. And at the end of the day, I had the strangest feelings, and you got to be cautious, especially as a woman, to not base life off of feelings, right? And it was almost a feeling as if I did something wrong. And I'm just like, gosh, I don't think I spoke ill of anybody today. And, I think everything went the way it was supposed to go. And but I like what you said, that if you're feeling something, basically, instead of absorbing it as self, because knowing your true identity, knowing who is Perry Harris, right? Then you could potentially take that thought, well, maybe somebody else is feeling discouraged, right? And then to be intuitive in one's own mind, who can I reach out to? To my verbiage I always use is to love on. And so can you share one of those examples in your life where you felt something, you sensed something, and instead of owning it, you decided to ask the question, I wonder if somebody's going through something and I need to reach out, and sure enough, that was the answer, without giving names.
Well, I used to be paranoid of going out in the dark, and it stems from childhood trauma that I had. And so, through my own mentoring, my own having a coach, my own having a counselor, I was able to work through a lot of that. And there was times when I just didn't want to leave the house. I was just felt safe in my own house, but I would say no. And so when I started to feel those feelings of fear, I knew that there was somebody that I needed to share life with. And so I started to pay attention. And how I learned this lesson was, I remember one time I was at the store and I was walking around really fast, just getting my needs, just being busy. And then all of a sudden, this thought came to me: come out of your bubble and start paying attention to other people around you. And I started taking my time when I would go to the store, and I would start to look for people who are hurting. And sometimes I would just whisper little things because I was kind of shy, which is something most people don't know about me, because they think, well, Perry, you have this persona of something different. But when Perry gets in her own mode and gets kind of selfish, and it's all about me and my world, and I stay in my little bubble, I can't see the hurting. So instead of feeling fear myself of being out in the public, maybe the last 3.5 years, I would start to notice other people that are feeling the way I do. And when I started to share with them and talk with them, I found out that was very true. And we're able to communicate and talk about the same sufferings that we were going through, because I'm constantly aware that I'm never alone. That was a part of identity that I had to learn at a very young age that I didn't learn until I was older. And so I keep pressing in of things that I'm afraid of, because I know they're going to grow me exponentially with mass compounding interest. And so I get excited about stuff like that. And so there is a scripture in the Bible that I would like to share.
Please
And
do.
it's Second Corinthians. It's one of my favorites, in chapter 12. And it says, "But he said to me, my grace is sufficient. For you, my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly of that of my weakness, be it whatever it may be, that the power of the risen Christ may rest upon me." So when I'm feeling discouraged, when I'm stuck in a coaching, when I'm going through my own stuff, when I'm taking care of my grandchildren, when I'm on a call, when I'm taking a test, when I'm learning something new, when I feel afraid, when my emotions feel overwhelmed. I'm like, Christ, let your risen power rest upon me. I allow you to rest upon me. And I can sense that those feelings just vapor away. And I'm able to see and have clarity where there once was fear.
You know, a visual just came to me, and that was so in the natural realm, when you have warmth, like let's say the grounds are warm, and a cold front is coming down, or vice versa, when the grounds are cold and a warm front is coming down, that is when the fog actually appears, right? So it's almost like an invasion of different realms. It's like you take the cold and let the heat come down, or you give the heat up, right, and let the coolness come down, right? And it kind of makes me think of if we go all the way back to Genesis, it says in the coolness of the day, right? That the Lord walked with Adam and Eve in the coolness of the day. It's almost like he brings, like stepping outside of oneself, right? Outside of me, myself, and I, right? Me, my thoughts, my feelings, my fears, my, right?
The unholy trinity.
Yeah. I love it. Somebody needs to mark that down, the unholy trinity. That is what actually opens up the door for strength or healing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's real. Yeah. And so, okay. So I just got this from Perry within this last week. This was a harmonica that belonged to our father, our biological father. Okay? And I'm going to play this. I'm going to play a few notes on this because it is like angelic sounding. It's actually a bigger harmonica, and it actually says Marine Band Trem, Tremolo, and it's made in Germany. Okay? Mm-hmm. It's wooden. The whole thing, the whole inside of it is wooden, right?
Vintage.
Yeah, it is. This thing is like old, but the sound of it, right, is different. It's unique. I'm going to play a couple of the sounds, but I want you to think of how you, viewers, are fearfully and wonderfully made. There's only one of you. So, actually, before I play a few tones, Perry, can you elaborate? Can you elaborate on there's only one of you?
Yes. The story I think of right now is you cannot create a blade of grass in a test tube. There's no snowflake that has a twin. It is singular, just like my children and my grandchildren. Even twins have thoughts about their own identity and are their own individual person with intention and with purpose. And like you said, we are fearfully and we are wonderfully made. We are one of a kind. We are, as our mom used to say, we are one in a million. There was no one like us, nobody that has my mind, nobody that has anything that I have, because it's mine. It's the one thing that we're in complete, total control of is me, myself, and I. And we're one big party. We're in total, full control of our own thoughts. Even if everything is chaotic around us, we still have value and we're still beautiful. I can take $1,000 bill and I can crumple it up. I can step on it and stomp on it. But when I pick it up, I can go to the store and I can spend every last cent of that $1,000 bill no matter how crumpled it is, it still has value.
That is good, good, good. That's good. Oh my gosh. And so before I play a few tunes on our harmonica here that belong to our dad, attached to this YouTube video at the bottom will be contact information and how to get a hold of Perry. But Perry, could you verbally communicate to our viewers how they could get in touch with you?
Yes, through hairscoaching.com. You can find me on Facebook, Perry Harris. I'm on Instagram, Perry Harris. You can DM me, get a hold of me through that.
Okay, so I want to leave us with a few of these sounds. So listen to the sound this makes. Actually, I want to start with the hard, the other tone. Hold on. And this is wild. You flip it over and it makes sounds. Oh my gosh, Perry. Perry, I just had a deja vu moment. I actually think our dad had this when we were little girls.
Probably.
Because watch, when I'm going to make this one tone right here, and when I make this one tone, I heard there is beauty all around.
Interesting.
When there's love at home, this tone right here. I heard our dad play that sound.
Interesting.
And then he went on to sing it. So our dad had a very deep voice, and as a little girl, we attended a church. And my favorite thing was to play with his hair. So bless my husband's heart, he doesn't have any hair. So he's never liked it when we've been in church or in a public place, and I take little loose ends of my hair and put them on top of his head. I just used to get the biggest kick out of it, right? And then one day he said to me very sternly, not with a raised voice, but very, Sean, I am not kidding. You need to quit putting your hair on top of my head. But it brought me such joy, and now I know why, because it took me back to my childhood.
Yes.
So Perry, I would like you to take the next 60 seconds or so. And can you just, I know your husband knows how to sing the Aaronic blessing. I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask you to sing the Aaronic blessing.
I wouldn't know how to do that.
But I would ask that you would just bestow upon viewers a blessing exactly where they are when they're listening to this.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. So may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord shine his face upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord turn his face, his countenance towards you, and give you peace. Now, my little 5-year-old granddaughter is learning that. And so whenever it gets to the peace part, she puts her 2 fingers up like this. And peace in the Hebrew is way more than the English verbiage. In Hebrew, it's nothing missing, nothing broken, sheer perfection, filled with healing, everything you possibly can need, want, or imagine, full of abundance. It goes way more than just a feeling. It is the person of Jesus Christ.
So in essence, peace, P-E-A-C-E, is the missing piece, P-I-E-C-E,
Mm-hmm.
to completeness. Oh man, that's good. So Perry, I just thank you so much for joining us today. And like I said to our viewers, her contact information is available. And also, if anybody just wants to reach out to me, I can get you in touch with Perry Harris. What a blessing she has been to so many over the decades. I mean, what a blessing she is. And I thank you for your time tonight. And you already said, what I always said, until our next episode of Sagionic 1024, may the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. And we will have Perry on in the future, because this was just like the breaking of the ice inside of who this woman is. Just what a gift she is to the world. And I am just one of the people who have been a recipient of her love, been a recipient of her patience, been a recipient of her listening ear, been a recipient of her words of graciousness, her words of kindness, her words of encouragement, her words of edification. I am just a recipient of the love that is in this woman, the knowledge, the wisdom, and so just thank you, Perry. And
You're welcome.
she has a thriving coaching business. And so I would just encourage anybody who, who wants to go outside of your general vicinity of all those people, reach out to Perry Harris, pearscoaching.com, right? pearscoaching.com.
I'm pretty sure that's it.
And it's, hold on. Let me look at my notes real quick, like before. Well, because it's going to be attached, but I just want to tell people the accurate thing right here. So hold on one second. Coach Pear. So Coach Pear is, it's actually COACH, Pear as in like the pear tree, PEAR. So coachpear.com, coachpear.com. So thank you, and blessings to all of our viewers. I'm going to try this thing, and if it doesn't turn out, well, let me just see if it turns out. Oh, it worked. Look at that, my new thing. Make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and blessings until our next broadcast. Blessings. Bye.